We talking through the Mexico Open, aka the John Rahm Invitational. No, I'm just kidding. This is crazy. I've never seen anything like this, and I haven't been doing this as long as you have. So maybe you have Sheets, but I don't. I mean, I guess maybe Tiger. I didn't look back in the day, so that would be the only person. But I've never seen anything where a guy's plus 260 since we started doing this. Have you seen anything like that recently, or is it only Tiger ever? I mean,
I don't really follow the sports betting too much, so I don't really know. But I do have a couple of comments about this. So first of all, the way DraftKings pricing goes, it's very linear in that they don't really have dynamic pricing. Like they rate the guys anywhere from like 11.9, 12K all the way down to like 6K, and they just kind of just basically just spread them out. Like. And like, for example, like John Rahm, like in the players was like 11.8. You know what I mean? Like in top competition, he was 11.8, and now he's 12K against a substandard, a lower level group. So as far as pure comparing DraftKings pricing to his win odds, I don't know what he was in the players, but it certainly wasn't plus 260. And so you think there's some natural line value, right, in playing him in DFS because 12K is somewhat cheap. But the real overarching question is this, right? So he's going to be 60% owned or so. And the real question, which I don't know the answer to, is does he need to win for your lineup to win, okay, if you play it? And given that he's 60% owned, I think it's worth noting that even though he's plus 260, what that means for real is that if they're giving you plus 260, that he's really probably plus 300, right, to actually win the thing. Mm-hmm. So he's going to win this about 30% of the time. Okay, about 30% of the time, maybe even 25% of the time. So if in fact he needs to win, and he's only going to win 25% of the time, and he's going to be 60% owned, it's probably a shitty play. Now, within that, there's incredible assumptions that are really flawed and fishy, like what I just said. Like number one, that he needs to win. Okay, you don't know if that's true. Number two is maybe for you to hit first place. If you play him, you need to win. He needs to win. That doesn't mean that you can't play him in your lineups.
Not though. I mean, like he could come in fifth, and you get your other guys right. Like
that's true. That is true. But those are just overall other things. And the other thing is, if you were going to bet this, we're going to do this from a DFS perspective. But if you're going to bet this from like a sports betting perspective, and I put my the sports betting stuff up on here, this is just like when Steve and I sometimes analyze a horse race like this. We'll say, okay, we don't want to play the chalk, okay? And the way you analyze is, okay, assuming he didn't exist, right? Who looks like a good play? Like, so if he's off the board, right? You would think now that Finau, I probably wouldn't consider him like twice as likely to win as all these other guys, right? And he certainly wouldn't be like 3 times as likely to win as some of the guys, in here. So I would probably, the way I'd analyze is say, okay, assuming Rahm loses, like who looks like a good bet, And so like I don't know. We were just looking at this for like 2 seconds, like who looks like a good play here. I mean, it's got to be. Remember, assuming that we're not betting Finau, assuming we're not betting Rahm, for the hell of it. If you had all these guys just kind of floating around here, what would be wrong if this were the only competition to play like Grillo at 50-1, like for example? You know what I mean? Like that would be the guy who would stand out for me as far as like playing a guy to win. Who just from a betting perspective looks like a good price for you to win here? If anybody, I mean, like
McNeely, maybe.
Okay,
that's just one that I'm just sort of like thinking through it. To be honest, I don't know. So the guys who I would have as maybe with a chance, or guys who would be further down, like Luke, Joseph Bramlett, Luke List. I don't know if I like the odds on Patrick Rogers enough. Aaron Rye. Those are the guys I would consider. But I mean, really, it feels pretty grim, like to try to find someone else who actually makes perfect sense. Taylor Pendrith, maybe.
Well, that's the whole point. The point is if we X out Rahm and Finau for the purpose of discussion, then it's not so difficult to make a case, because everybody stinks, you know what I mean, in a way, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, for example, why, and we joke about this, but why is like Patton Kizzire like 90, you know what I mean? Like 90-1 compared to like Bo Hosser's 35, you know what I mean? Or compared to like, all these guys that haven't won, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So from a betting perspective, maybe I will. Maybe I'll flick in a Grillo or something like that, or Taylor Pendrith at 55-1. Listen, you're going to need Rahm to have a crap week for you to win anyway. So presuming that he's going to win, you think that he's not going to win, then Finau would be the natural like other guy people would play, so we can't play him, right? So it'd be like all this other stuff. And I wonder if that's the way you're supposed to analyze from a DraftKings perspective too. But let's do what we usually do. Let's go into the lobby. We'll go tier by tier, and then we will get it going here.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Okay. So do you like either of these guys in DFS, Rahm and Finau?
I mean, I'm gonna play some of them. Like I'm struggling with this because I know that we're supposed to get different and everything. Maybe there's just enough other places to get different. I don't know how with the Rahm thing, especially. I do see it as different. I think that the odds of him top fiving are just too high, and you're not going to need him necessarily, but he's not going to hurt you by playing him. I like hardly ever here. So I'm struggling with it, to be honest with you. As of right now, I'm probably like at 50% Rahm myself, but I am open to trying to rebuild. And I also think that Finau stands out, so it's a little tricky for me. Playing those two together is something that you can do, you can get away with. But it's not like totally comfortable. And that's sort of, as of right now, I'm probably going to be near the field on both those guys. How about you?
Yeah. When I first did my first build the other day, I'm rebuilding now. I basically was what I considered with the field on Rahm, which at that point I figured it'd be like 65%. So I had 65% when I first built. I'm just building right now. I'm actually getting 70. So I'll probably be, I guess, slightly ahead of the field, in the lottery on something like him. He's just, like you said, his win odds are just too strong, I think. But here's I have a question for you. I was going to message Nelson about this. I wonder if there's blowout risk in golf. And the reason I mention it is if Jon Rahm is up 5 strokes going into like the next, going into days 3 and 4, in the Masters or in the Players, he is just going to continue to put on the freaking accelerator and keep going for birdies, eagles, or whatever, because he's got all these freaking guys like chasing him. But if he's up 5, like after 2 rounds with, Alejandro Tosti, like in second or something like that, like, is he not just going to just go for his pars, just do what he got? No, you think he's still going to put on the hammer?
Not Rahm. He's going to try and go win by 15 strokes then.
Okay.
He's a competitor. He's always, I mean, and you see in his wins, like both he and Scheffler, they beat that. Like, he won that one tournament by like 10 strokes last year. I do think he would just keep putting the gas on, but I guess we get into the more interesting conversation when we start talking about the next tier. What do you like in the 9K range? And do you feel like even like, it's funny because I like some of these guys, but I could definitely make a case for skipping this too. Like, I don't like if you're playing Rahm, you don't need to, you're going to need to you're going to want to probably play some of these guys. If you're not playing Rahm, if you are playing Rahm, you can definitely skip this range if you want to. That's what my first look was. What do you think about this?
Yeah, exactly the same. My first builds, of 150. I mean, I'd be getting like 14% like Wyndham Clark and like 11% Patrick Rogers, and then everybody else in this range would be like under like 5%. I mean, as far as just like how they rate, I mean, that's pretty linear. I mean, like Clark looks like the best play under 10K. But I do have Patrick Rogers for whatever it's worth. I have him as only 10% ownership, which is It's pretty intriguing. As actually all these guys like Woodland, 12%, Benyon, 11%. And I guess that's because, like you said, I mean, if you play Rahm, there's like so many options below that you don't really get to the 9Ks. So
Right.
you can get pretty different, like with these guys. I don't know if I have it in me to do it in the big buy-in, but I certainly wouldn't fault you for taking shots. At on 11%, Woodland 12%, Patrick Rogers 10%. I think Wyndham Clark is probably a little bit too popular for me to get to, unless I just get to him, right?
Right.
But yeah, that's probably where I am in the 9Ks.
Yeah, so I like the I mean the guys for me would be Patrick Rogers. You mentioned I like Patrick Rogers here. I like Benyon probably the best, factoring everything in, and I do like Wyndham Clark, but again, you'd have some ownership issues. I think Alex Noren is in play 9K. That I don't think people are really looking at him, and he would be another one that he would be one I would feel comfortable with. So maybe give Noren and On my two favorites from this range, just because of the ownership. Even though Noren has looked really really dreadful, but he is a better golfer than most of the people in this tournament. And again, like I said, maybe you can skip it. The 8K range, I am gonna make a way to force things in because this is the range that's getting the least ownership, really. Aaron Rye is probably my favorite down in the 8K range. Bo Hostler, I like. I like Grillo a little bit, and Brandon Wu. Those would be my favorite ones.
The top
and Jaeger. I cried about Jaeger, of course, but he's going to be popular.
Yeah, Jaeger's the top play and the top owned play. I have him at like 15% ownership. So proceed at your own risk, but he definitely is like kind of like the model Darwin this week, especially at this range. But the guys that you mentioned, I like quite a bit at lower ownership, and that would be Aaron Rye. I don't know if you mentioned him, but Alex Smalley.
Oh, I didn't mention Smalley.
Yeah. And I have a couple of others too. The aforementioned Emmanuel Grillo, whichever Kim is 8,200, and Ben Martin at 8,600. So I think this range is definitely interesting. If you fade Jaeger, who's going to be the chalkier one, and you go down to these others, like you mentioned Aaron Rye, I think that's a really good option. He's probably the lowest, at least close to the lowest owns of all the guys I just mentioned. So Rye and Kim, I think, would be the two lowest owns of the guys that I mentioned.
I really like a pivot off of the Jaeger. I forgot to mention it. Matt Wallace, I love actually. He's going to be a guy I'm going to have a ton of exposure to. He's looked a lot better this year and played better. He didn't have a great partner playing in the what's it called last week, the Zurich thing. But I do like Wallace. I think he's on an upward trend in his career, and I think that maybe attacking him while we're still getting him at low ownership is a good idea, and sort of people aren't paying attention. He's a guy I could see coming out of nowhere and really competing in this tournament. So I guess I'll make Matt Wallace my favorite play actually from that range. I do like a lot down here in the 7K range. We'll go 7,500 to 8K. Starting at the top, at the 79, excuse me, Will Gordon. I don't know if I want to do this. I think that it feels weird that he's getting some ownership because he didn't play. He missed a couple. I don't know. Whatever. I'm up in the air with Will Gordon. I guess that's the best way I can put it. The guys I really am high on are Luke List and Joseph Bramlett. And those will be the ones I'm heaviest exposed to, other than, as we always do, in these tournaments, I'm going to always play the general. So Kazire is the next one for me, and then Dylan Wu being the last one.
I think you hit on them. So wait, so Will Gordon you mentioned. So we're counting 7,500?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll give one more for you. So Will Gordon, I hit him. Bramlett, you got that. Luke List. I don't know if you mentioned Lee Hodges. But I'm getting Lee Hodges as well. He's actually probably the most popular of all the guys I just mentioned, actually. I have him at 11%, very similar to Will Gordon, actually. But I also am getting at 7,500 Eric with a C Cole as playable. Like my initial build would have like 18% of him, which is certainly going to be significantly more than his ownership. I'm getting to him as well.
Nice. I like that. All right, down in the 7K to 7,400 range. I'll scroll. I actually like Akshar Bhatia a lot this week, so he's probably one of the guys I look at. I like Doug Gim. He's looked a little bit better lately. Both Gim and Streelman, I feel like they're the guys who we pay the same price for them at regular tournaments, so they kind of stood out to me. You know what I mean? Tournaments that actually have all the top guys, and most of these guys are usually a lot higher priced than this one. I was considering Eric Van Rooyen, and I didn't know where I ended up standing on that one. Eric Van Rooyen, Cam Champ, and Harry Higgs are all guys who I'm thinking about playing as well. So I have I'm going to try and get a lot of guys down here because you're not going to have a ton of ownership. The one who's really popular is Harry Hall. I was hoping maybe you could shed some light on that one for me because I don't know a whole lot about him.
Yeah, so I was originally getting Harry Hall like when I first ran these things, and I'm just not anymore. Give you a couple of, and I'll give you some inside information too. So I actually have only 2 guys that I'm getting more than 10% of in the 7,500 below, 7,400 below. One of them is my once and future hero Austin Eckroat at 7K. I'm getting a decent amount of him, and then another guy who I have been told, this is not a joke. I have been told that this player is quote unquote really feeling it, and that quote unquote you should bet on me. This player's name is Scott Piercy.
Okay.
Don't ask, but
talk myself into anything at this point.
That is a true story. I was just had actually a call with somebody, something else, who's like friends with him somehow, and he was saying he actually liked him in the team event too. So I don't think he did as well in the team event, but apparently he's feeling it, playing well. It's a really funny, interesting story behind him, which I never knew. So he was really like struggling to make his way into professional golf or whatever, going on all these like mini tours and stuff. And he actually had stakers and backers that put him in a huge big money event at the Wynn in like 2007. And he won like $2 million.
Wait,
Scott Piercy?
Oh my God. I feel like I remember something like that, and that I didn't realize he was a golfer.
Yeah. So Scott Piercy. And so that was him. So he's like kind of a player, so to speak. So I'll listen, anything. I'll take a shot.
A little poker narrative, whatever hurt anybody.
I'll take a shot. So Scott Piercy at 7,100 and the Austin Eckroat at 7K would be my favorites from that range.
I mean, I'm into that. I like that. Hey, you give me a little something to look forward to, because now I actually feel like I know a little bit. I at least have a reason for playing some of these guys, because it honestly is a little tricky, because I'm going down the 6K ranges now, and I think you can make a ton of cases like for a lot of guys here. And do you need to do it if you play Rahm? Maybe. Baddeley.
We're going under 7K now.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a couple for you.
Oh, okay. Baddeley, Caleb Tarran for me. Kind of like Echeverria.
Is there any way that you're pronouncing that right? There's no way, right?
Echeverria?
Is that right?
I think it is. There used to be some baseball players named Echeverria.
Oh, okay.
And then that was the way they pronounced it. Tano Goya, I mentioned that one. Carson Young is probably my favorite of the get weird thing. Like, I just think his kid's had some good results lately. You've been looking for Cam Young up the leaderboard, but it was actually Carson Young a couple times recently. And I just had him as a note. But I don't have I don't think I named your guy. So why don't you let me know who you have? Is it
hang on. I just want to confirm this. So you actually did hit on one of them. That would be whatchamacallit. That would be who's the guy with the funny name that you mentioned?
Echeverria?
No, the other guy.
Yeah.
Tano Goya. Okay.
Yeah.
So I currently have 14% Tano Goya, and I currently have 14% Callum Tarran, as you mentioned. But I currently have 28% of the once and future king, leader of the free world, Alejandro Tosti. So we will see how it turns out. that's where I am right now. We shall see. We shall see how it goes.
Where did the Toasty thing come from?
I don't know. He's just showing up in my models, and when that happens, and he's 3% owned, and I'm getting 28%, I'm not asking. I was looking. I just went to check to see maybe he was from Mexico. He had some home field advantage or something, but he's actually not. That's not even the case. He's from Argentina. So beats me, but I'm in.
All right, sounds good to me. Well, let's play the game here because I'm going to need to make some cuts. I've just got a bunch of guys like who I feel like
I'm with you. Yeah,
you know, I need to whittle down a little bit. So let's start. Sheets, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, just remember what we're doing. So we're doing who do we think is going to win the tournament? Top guy under 10K to make top 5. Top guy under 9K to make top 10. Some guy under 8K to make top 20. Under 7K to make the cut, and then over 9K to miss the cut. So listen, we're going to keep it real. I guess we could both suggest that Rahm's going to win, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But maybe we should throw out another. Like, I mean, it really.
We shouldn't have to throw anything out. We could both take Rahm in this space.
Okay.
So I happen to think Rahm is going to win.
Yeah. Jesus.
Well, I mean, that's what it is. This is the game.
No, I know. Me too. I'm with you. I just can't quite. I can't believe the ownership concentration between Rahm and Finau this week is going to be so crazy. All right. So then who do you like to top 5 under 10K? Well, it's interesting because I have my 9K guys and I've got my 8K guys. I'm tempted to get a little bit bold with this, but I think I'm just gonna stick with the one I like and leave you your guy. I'm gonna say Benny On.
I was wondering who you think my guy was going to be. I'm between two. I have one guy here, and I don't want to say who the other guy would have been because that's no fun. I am going, well, just because we haven't mentioned him yet. I'm going to go with, how is this guy actually going to get top 5? I have no idea, but Gary Woodland.
Okay. This is where we're at in the year 2023, I guess. Right. All right, so Gary Woodland. My guy under 9K to top 10 is going to be Matt Wallace.
And mine will be under 9K. Mine is going to be, all right, I'm going to pick them just the most likely to do it. I am going to say Steven Yeager.
Okay. All right, why don't you lead off the under 8K here?
Under 8K to finish top 20. I will, in fact, well, you know what? I'm going to go with a little distance here. I'm going to go with Joseph Bramlett.
I was deciding between Bramlett, List, and Kazire. So I will say List because everybody knows I'm already going to play Kazire. So
under 7K just to make the cut.
Under 7K to make the cut. A guy who I didn't really talk much about. You know what? I'm going to say Austin Smotherman. Am I really going to say that, actually? Is that my favorite one? I don't even know that it is. I just sort of panicked there. You know what? I'll take the Goya to your Toasty. Is that who you're going to go with?
You're going to take the Goya to my – all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the low-owned combination of Percy with Piercy. So I'm going to go Cameron Percy to make the cut.
Percy Piercy.
To go with Scott Piercy to do something.
Yeah. Hey, man, that'd be nice. Maybe he can return some of that couple million.
Percy Piercy. That's going to be it. How about over 9K to miss the cut? I think they're all going to miss the cut. How about over 9K to miss the cut?
Oh boy. Okay, so I guess Davis Rod. No, I'm just kidding.
He's got a shot.
It's weird because I actually like the upside for this guy, but I'm still going to say Maverick McNeely. I just keep saying McNeely for everything.
That's where I was going to go. I'm going to go with the other one like that, and I'm going to go with Alex Noren.
Okay.
Both these guys, by the way, they're both making the cut, probably.
Yeah,
But that's what. Well, in the same way that Gary Woodland's probably not making the top 5. So,
he might go. I mean, he really could. Like, it's not impossible. Why not?
Nothing. Listen, nothing's impossible, including what's this now? What's his name again? Including whoever the hell I said I had 28% of. Oh, Alejandro Tosti. Let's go.
The Toasty Piercy combination.
The Toasty Percy Piercy. Toasty Percy Piercy. And leaving 11,000 on the table.
Yeah, so we'll throw in Goya then, and then play Rom and Finau.
This is what this tournament's going to be. By the way,
this is going to be a weird one. I'm kind of looking forward to it. Hey, look, if they put a $200K for first place tournament out there, it's certainly.
So look at it another way. Okay, we're going into like day 2, and they're day 4. Okay. And they're interviewing somebody, and we have to visualize this. But the person they're interviewing is like, this is going to be an interview. So how does it feel to be in the final pairing with Jon Rahm? You know, given your lack of experience. I don't know, man. I don't know, Jim. I'm going to do the best that I can. Obviously, Rahm's the best. So who is that guy going to be? Like, who's going to be the guy no one's heard of that's in the final pairing with Jon Rahm, who ends up losing by like 11 strokes? But that's the guy that you're going to want. So is that going to be? Come, let's go for a full profile of Alejandro Tosti, or of it could be like a Callum Tarrant who's been kind of lurking about, you know.
Yeah.
Or it could be anybody. I'll tell you this: if it's freaking Rahm and Finau, I'm going to turn my TV off. You know what I mean? Like I'm just so not interested in that.
I know. So my sneaky one for that conversation would be Matt Wallace. And he would say he won't give you the response you're saying. He's got a little fire in him. He would say
he would say something like, "Who am I paired with?"
Yeah. So wrong. Who's that? I just focused on
I didn't check the board yet. Who am I? Who's with me?
Yeah, am I ahead?
That's right.
But I do like that Matt Wallace. He's the crazy long shot odds one that I would look at actually now that I think about the bets.
Okay.
But anyway, it should be fun. We will, I'll post some lineup builds a little bit later. These Wednesdays, it's a busy, just to give everybody a heads up, it's a busy Wednesday for day stuff for baseball. And then we're going to do some basketball next. But then we've got tomorrow is going to be a real dud of the day, early baseball game. So there's going to be very little in the afternoon and stuff.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And as far as my content goes on sometimes on those days, because especially when we have multiple sports, I tend to because they did multiple slates. Sometimes I'll just post in premium Discord rather than loading it on the site when I don't have the time and I'm just jumping around. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up for that.
Okay.
Anyway, guys, good luck to everybody, and we'll see you shortly. Hopefully somebody can take something down this week. Really, really strange week.